Hey guys, we are back in the studio again with the second Kentrosaurus Repaint. If you saw last week's video, I did a pretty simple paint mod on the Kentro, just finishing the factory paint and enhancing a few details. In this week's video, we're going to do a full-on repaint and take this spiky guy to the next level. I came across this really cool design on Instagram that I believe is from Path of Titans. Anyway, this design really stood out to me, and I got to thinking that this style would look pretty cool on this figure. Now I'm going to sort of use rule of cool, creative licensing, and everything like that. I'm going to kind of use the picture as sort of inspiration. I'm not going to try and make it look exactly like this because I've only got these two pictures to go by, and I'm just going to kind of be creative with this and do my own thing, but sort of use this color palette as inspiration for this repaint. So as always, before I start slinging paint, I need to prep this guy real quick. I've covered this before in past videos, so it's business as usual. Just sort of go around the figure and examine all the articulation spots to see which ones rub against plastic, and then use an X-Acto knife or sandpaper to trim away or sand away any of the excess plastic. Since I haven't assembled the tail yet, it'll be a bit easier to get the plastic on the inside trimmed down and out. And once that's done, I'll go around and finish a few other spots I think may be problematic once the paint is applied. I'll then take some rubbing alcohol and start to remove the yellow paint on the underside. The base body color on this Deco is brown, so I'm going to be using the brown plastic to my advantage and playing off of that, which will cut out me having to paint the figure's body brown. So I'm just working at getting the yellow off by using an old toothbrush and some Q-tips, and fortunately the yellow factory paint comes off pretty easy with the rubbing alcohol and some vigorous scrubbing. So I've got all the yellow paint removed, and now I'm ready to start putting some paint on. And since I'm going to be using the brown plastic as the base color, I want to bring out the details in the sculpt. For that, I'm going to be taking some cheapo apple barrel brown and just scrub it all over the body, and then quickly dry it with my heat gun, and then just wipe the paint off the raised areas with a paper towel, leaving the brown paint down in the recesses. And a simple paint wash followed by a highlight dry brushing can really bring a sculpt to life. With all that done, now I'm going to start laying down my blue color all over the top of the Kentro. I'm also going to add some random blasts of purple to add some cool sort of color variation to the design. I'll then take a light blue paint and add a few highlights over the blue areas to bring out some of the details. Now these highlights won't be visible all over the place because the black Deco will cover most of them up, but for the areas that will show through, it will add just a little bit of color variation and details to those spots. I'll then go over the sides of the belly and wipe away some of the blue paint off the raised surface areas, leaving the brown on top exposed and the blue down in the cracks. I think it'll just make it look a little cool and give it, a little pop of color down in there. I'll then go over the body with a light glaze of a slightly darker blue ink, and then dry brush my final highlight over the raised areas. So for the spikes, I'll just demonstrate on the side spikes, since trying to film doing the pattern on the ones on the tail would be a bit challenging. It'll just be easier to do it like this. So I have these spikes hot glued down onto this old medicine bottle and then base coated in the light sky blue. And then I'll add a blue wash over those, followed by a dry brushing of sky blue to bring the details out. I'll then go in with my black paint and add all the rings around the spikes. This is the same exact process I did on the spikes on the tail. Now it's time to break out our secret weapon here at the compound, and that is our good friend, Mr. Silly Putty. My goal was to mask off the areas I wanted to keep blue and brown, while the areas in between the masking are going to be the black Deco. I'm using black airbrush paint by Golden Paints and concentrating my focus on the top plates in the back area, and then gradually fading it out as I get down into the brown areas. You could do this all by hand, but like I've said before in the past, the Silly Putty, even though it does take a little bit longer to lay it out, does let you plan your patterns out without having to commit to laying paint down. This is my go-to method for complicated decos like this. Now I'll fast forward, and here is the finished deco, and it's looking great. Now it's just a matter of going through with a fine tip brush and adding some fine lines and extra patterns and designs that would be hard to do with the airbrush. I'll then finish things off by painting the nails black and then sealing the dyno with a couple of coats of matte varnish to lock in that paint. And here is the finished Kentro next to the original, and he is looking super sharp with this wild deco. The new Kentro is such a great figure and a real fun one to repaint. It's got perfect articulation and a really nice sculpt, and I've said it before, when dinosaur figures have really nice sculpts, they just paint themselves, and this thing was such a fun figure to repaint. Every now and then Mattel just knocks it out of the park with certain figures, and the sculpt on them are just really great, and this one right here is just probably in my top 10 Mattel dino figures that they've released since 2018 or whenever. So this thing is really, really awesome. Definitely recommend giving this thing a repaint, no matter what what deco you try to put on it. Be creative and definitely paint this one. It is super fun. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and watching. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the video and you learned something and it has helped inspire your next repaint. And if it has, remember to tag me in all of your repaints over on Instagram at the Jurassic Park compound, because I always love to see what you guys can come up with. For more Jurassic related content, you know where to find me. Links will be in the description box below. You guys take care, and I'll see you around the compound.